guys, Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. I got an early morning video recording for you guys. It's the third installment of our NBA Prospecting 101 playlist, 2018 NBA Draft Class. So this is the draft class you've all been waiting for. This is the draft class that coincided with the massive explosion of demand and interest in the hobby in 2019 and 2020. Everybody's going to know that Luka and Trey were the headliners in this class, but this class is absolutely insanely deep. This is going to push in my opinion, this class is going to push the 1996 rookie class with Kobe and Nash and Ray Allen and all those guys. And it is going to push the 2003 class with LeBron, Melo, Wade, Bosh. This is going to be, from a depth perspective, it's shaping up to be absolutely unprecedented. I'll let you guys comment below and let me know what you think. And it is way, way, way too early to tell. Remember, some of the things we talked about in our prior videos were, you got to remember the NBA player's prime is like, age 28 to 30. Hell, some of them are now even peaking at age 31, 32. You're starting to see it with some of these older guys as skill becomes more prominent and more featured in the NBA. The way the game's played, physical attributes are meaning a little bit less and skills meaning a little bit more. The game is so open. Just the way it's played with the pace and space and the way it's officiated now. So people's primes are even later than you would think. I mean, I guess generally speaking, if we think back to when we used to play hoops, we would say our primes were probably our early 20s, but the way these guys are taking care of their bodies, they're prolonging their physical prime, and so they've got longer to develop skill to really optimize their peak potential. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind. This is still a real early look. I mean, we've got so much more certainty just in the two prior videos I've done with 2016 and 2017. Those guys have had 4, 5, 6 years in the league. Some of these guys, sat and watched their first year, sat and watched their first 2 years. So there's just still a ton of uncertainty. So some of these guys may play their way out of NBA relevance. But man, if you just look at potential and number of solid NBA starters, and then obviously, NBA franchise cornerstones already, this class checks all the boxes. So let's keep in mind also that we're primarily talking today about, I do basketball card videos. I do basketball videos. This is more about basketball and just analyzing basketball players from a prospect perspective. I'm not getting into what cards to buy or who you should buy or anything like that. I'm not here to give investment advice. I'm just giving you my personal thoughts from watching an absolute shit ton of NBA League Pass, box scores, hundreds, probably thousands of games by now. So I've watched probably 100 games of some of these guys. I'm not an NBA GM. I do welcome your comments, and that's kind of what these videos are for. I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this. I know some of you guys are going to say, right on, Cajun, right on, Brian, you nailed it. And then some of you guys are going to say, Brian, you're an idiot. This is my guy. This is the guy that I put all the money in. So I want to hear those comments. I want to invite an elaborate discussion where you guys can make your points and defend your points. And that's how I learn more about the hobby is talking with other people who have different perspectives, and we're not always going to share the same opinion or want the same cards or collect the same players, but it's always fun to just kind of defend your guy and talk about your guy and why you think he's special. And so without any more delay, let's get cranking. So we're looking at the 2018 draft. I'm sorry about these ads. This is NBAdraft.net. It's a great place that I go to. I could have gone to NBA.com or a million other sites that show historical draft results. But, this is the seminal moment in the Suns franchise where they chose Deandre Ayton over, Luka Doncic and Trey Young. I don't think very many GMs would have done anything differently at the time. Deandre Ayton's our first guy. He by first pick standards, he's better than average. He's been nothing short of exceptional since he was drafted. He went through a little bit of a problem a little bit early in his career where he missed some games, and then I think if I recall, maybe it was early in his second year, he had a deal where he tested positive for weed or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but all in all, he's been a pretty steady player. We're looking at his stats on NBAReference.com. Clearly he was on the all-rookie team. He came out of the gates, as a rookie, as a man-child. I mean, he was physically ready for the NBA, and I think that had a lot to do with why the Suns took him first, and also fit. For the first time, somebody took a player that absolutely fit. He was exactly what they needed, which was a monster, to go alongside Booker. Historically, successful franchises have had a big and a little. Not that Booker's little. I mean, he's like 6'7" or whatever, but you know what I mean, a perimeter player and a post man. Ayton came out of the blocks, not the greatest offensive player. You'll see his 16.3 points as a rookie. A lot of that was rim running and dunking everything back. He didn't block shots at the level everybody expected him to, and part of the reason is nobody shoots in the paint anymore. And big men are always drawn out to the perimeter to cover other spacer bigs and pick and pop three bigs. And so, all block shots are down, but blocking less than one shot a game was a little bit surprising, a little bit concerning his rookie year. But you can see how much Ayton's developed. His minutes have been a steady 30 minutes a game. He still doesn't take very many field goals, which leads me to believe that he's not a dump it in and let him go to work dude yet, like Embiid is. Like Embiid's a high usage rate, focal point, run your offense through him. Ayton's not that guy yet. Ayton is still more Capella than Embiid, but I know Ayton has that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing Ayton to Capella. He's significantly more advanced offensively, and he's got really good touch that I think he will develop even further as he goes along. But if you look at his field goal percentage, he's doing what he needs to do. And this is another, indication that he dunks everything and shoots little half hooks and putbacks and things like that. He's a great rim runner, has turned into a very good defender. But you'll see his field goal percentage is up to 62.6% last year and the same this year. He doesn't shoot any threes. He does not space the floor. So he is your traditional big. His shots are down. I don't know why. I don't like it. But, part of the reason is they're just a lot better team now, and the ball can move better, and they've got Michael Bridges is starting to develop a little bit. Chris Paul is now in the mix. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that he's getting fewer shots. I don't think it's because he's, not developing. I think he is developing. He's averaging 17 points a game, over 11 rebounds. He's averaged double-figure rebounds every year of his career. That's the one statistic from college and from overseas that you can always count on. That translates to the NBA is rebounding. Assists, shooting percentages, stealing the ball, all of those other things, sometimes you wonder, is this going to translate into the NBA? Rebounding always translates. If you're an animal on the glass, you're going to be an animal on the glass in the NBA because a lot of that hinges on effort. And just instincts, and those things are usually set in stone. When you're seeing a guy average 14 rebounds a game in college, he's going to be a good rebounder in the NBA just strictly through effort, and because nobody in the NBA box out. Watch the games; it's one of the most ridiculous, preposterous things. I have no idea why nobody freaking boxes out. Every time a three-pointer goes up, every single defensive player turns around and stares at the rim. Watch it. Seriously, try to pick that up. Watching, thousands of league pass games, I have come to the conclusion that coaches just don't give a shit about that, and I don't really know why. But anyway, that's Deandre Ayton. I've spent a ton of time on him. Let's go back to the draft. Marvin Bagley, second. A lot of people invested in Marvin Bagley and got hammered. They've liquidated. A lot of people, invested in Marvin Bagley, and they've held. I dabbled a little bit in Marvin Bagley. I got to see him play a little bit in, believe it or not, middle school. My son went to the John Lucas camp in Las Vegas and was on the same team as Marvin Bagley. And so, funny story, my son was probably, 4'10" as a fifth grader, and it was a fifth and sixth division, and Marvin Bagley was a sixth grader on his team. And I remember them running a pick and roll, and my son lifts a lob up with one hand when Bagley rolls to the rim, and Bagley was at the time 6'4" as a sixth grader, and he dunks the ball with two hands as a sixth grader at the John Lucas camp. And I turned to the dude next to me, and I was like, tell me again who this dude is. And so I got to see him from an early age. He's struggling a little bit in the NBA. Obviously, injuries had a ton to do with it. He's not been healthy from the beginning. His numbers kind of suck. He's finally getting some run for the Kings. By the way, I forgot. I'm slotting all these players into 5 categories. Franchise centerpiece, which is we're calling Ayton a franchise centerpiece. Right now, he's the beta. Booker is the alpha, and Chris Paul's the generals. But I think Deandre Ayton ultimately ends up being a franchise centerpiece and gets his scoring average over 20 a game at some point. The second category is sidekick all-star, like a Chris Middleton is kind of my example for that, which is probably what Ayton is right now. And then the next category is solid NBA starter, like starter, period. You're a starter on an NBA team now and for the foreseeable future, or you have the potential to be an NBA starter. Role player are those guys that are just never going to crack the starting 5, never going to be relied upon, and probably never be able to achieve, my opinion, never be able to achieve true value in the hobby from a collector standpoint. And then category 5, I call it Sasquatch, or missing in action. These are guys that who knows where the hell they are. Either they had their chance and they were woeful from the jump, and so their time is over, or they never got to the league, or they've never been called over by their teams. If you hear me say Sasquatch, that means probably pennies on the dollar. If you want to go grab these guys, you can buy them, invest them, and throw some money at these guys and try to make some money. But their career is either over or never got started, or they're just plain not good enough. Anyway, Marvin Bagley right now is a role player. I mean, he's probably the 5th or 6th option for the Sacramento Kings, which is just an average team. He's watching, Richaun Holmes play. He started to get some spot starter minutes. I think what they're doing is they're trying to play the kid, develop him so they can move him along in a trade. That's what I think. I think they're trying to move off of Marvin Bagley, and so he's getting some run. He's putting up very pedestrian numbers. I thought he was going to be a very good offensive player because he seemed skilled to me, but he has not shown that. Next in line, real easy, if they had to redo the draft, and I'm going to do a video where we redraft every draft class, and there's going to be a long list we're going to go back to like 2000, and we're going to redraft every one about who they should have taken and talk about what could have been, but this is one where you wonder, Phoenix was set at the guard position, and so you just kind of wonder, could they have taken Doncic? What would that look like? Could you imagine Doncic and Booker sharing the ball? I know Booker's great playing off the ball because he does it with Chris Paul, but can you imagine? Can you imagine those two guys on the same court? You talk about must-see TV. But Doncic is obviously the number 3 pick from Dallas, and he was involved in that trade with Trey Young, and so they'll always be linked together. There's no way around it. Let's talk about Doncic. Here's some names. I love to look at these nicknames, guys. I've heard Wonder Boy. I've heard the Don. I've heard Cool Hand. El Matador, never heard. El Nino, never heard. Maravilla, that must be something from when he played over in Spain for Real Madrid. Swaggy L, Luka Legend, and Too Easy, whatever. Anyway, 2 times All-NBA at the age of 22. He hasn't even turned 23 years old, so basically he's a senior in college and already has 2 All-NBAs. He made the All-Rookie team. He was the Rookie of the Year. He's a 2-time All-Star. He's an absolute transcendent talent. You can talk about how fat he is, how pasty he is, how he has no muscle tone whatsoever. You can talk about the fact he can't really jump. But what's often overlooked is right here, guys. 6'7", 230, my friends. That is something that a lot of people don't realize. He is an absolute monster. 6'7", 230 is no slouch. You're talking Kawhi Leonard size with point guard, elite point guard skill, unprecedented court vision. He's not a good shooter. And so you're going to get the white stereotype that, all white dudes can shoot, and that's why they're in the league. Luka's not a good shooter, man. I say that. I think he's going to develop into an elite shooter, and part of the reason is he's got so much responsibility and so much attention. He's taking very difficult shots. If he was in a different situation with another primary ball handler, I think his percentages would go up. I think you'd see him shoot a much better percentage from 3. You have to remember the types of threes he's shooting. A lot of those are off the dribble threes, and most people, Steph Curry, being the exception. Most people shoot a lower percentage with off the dribble threes because it's a more difficult shot because you have to create your own space. If you've played basketball, you know how much different it is catching wide open in the corner, shooting a three with the defender running at you, and shouldering a defender off and then, between the legs step back, which is Luka's kind of signature move, and shooting a three. Just much different. So let's look at his percentages here. Luka's 42% as a rookie. He has bumped it. He had 2 good years in a row where he bumped it up. And this year he's really struggling. 44% from the field on a career high field goal attempts. 31.8% from three on 8 threes a game. That's just not good numbers, man. His free throws are 71%. Free throws are, to me, what indicates a player's true shooting ability. It's a repetitive, uncontested motion that tests hand-eye coordination. It concerns me a little bit that Luka's never shot over 75% from the free throw line. That is very unusual for elite field goal percentage shooters and elite three-point shooters. Usually three-pointers and free throws coincide. They are coinciding right now for Luka. So the big concern with Luka from a prospecting standpoint is, will he ever develop into an elite shooter? He is an elite ball handler. He's an elite point guard. He's got prototypical fantastic positional size for his position. He's an absolute basketball genius, and anybody who says otherwise is purely a hater. You cannot watch him play basketball and not think he is a once-in-a-decade type basketball genius, because he is. Over a steal a game is a testament to that. For a slow, fat, white dude to get over 1 steal a game, that means you've got nasty, phenomenal instincts. Never blocks shots because he doesn't really play defense. He is a terrible defender. And then you look at his points per game. Again, he's 2-time All-NBA. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him. Everybody and their grandma knows about Doncic. I made a ton of money on Doncic. I am currently liquidating most of my Doncic collection just because I have other pursuits. But that's probably another video as well. I definitely think Luka Doncic is a Hall of Fame basketball player. And if he ever takes his physical, his body seriously and does the type of things that LeBron and some of these other guys have done with their body, and Chris Paul, who figured it out late in his career, I think he's off the charts special and capable of being a transcendent player. Next in line, Jaren Jackson Jr. And here's our guy. So I did not invest at all in Jaren Jackson Jr. I did not think very highly of him coming out of college. He's still only 22 years old. He made the all-rookie team just because he played a lot of minutes. But you can see he's actually having the best year of his career. So the concern with Jaren Jackson Jr. is that he plays kind of soft as hell. He is 16 points a game, but he only gets 5.3 rebounds a game, which is kind of silly when you consider he's 6'11", 242. He looks. My son says this all the time, and I laugh my ass off. He looks like Tristan Thompson, like he shoots it from his chest, like a little kid, in the back gym in an AAU tournament. I just don't understand how somebody could get to this level and not release a basketball at the right point. He actually shoots about the same percentage from three as Doncic, and if you go look at it, his first and second year in the league, he shot the hell out of it from three. Now he's taking 5.8 threes and only shooting 31%. So his threes are down this year. His field goal percentage is horrific. I really, honestly, I think he's just a product of Ja Morant. He is averaging 16, which sounds great, I guess. But on 40% shooting, less than 50% effective field goal percentage, which combines threes and twos, that's awful for a 6'11" dude. I mean, that is flat out horrible. The anomaly here is he's an incredible free throw shooter for a big man. I don't know what the deal is with him. I'm going to put him in the starter in the NBA category. I'm not ready to call him an all-star. I'm not ready to call him a sidekick, second best player on a contender. I'm not, and I know what the Grizzlies are doing, but I think they're doing it in waves right now. I think that what the Grizzlies are doing is not attributable to Jaren Jackson. It's attributable to Ja Morant taking his game to an MVP level and making a gigantic leap forward. and then Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Steven Adams, all of these other guys just being pretty damn good. Not great, but pretty damn good. And so they're kind of coming at you in waves. Essentially, they're doing this year what the Hawks did last year, which is take a huge step forward as a team. Don't ask me about the Hawks this year, but they're taking a step forward as a team. This is going to end up being a long video. I am just realizing that, but I love this draft class, and there's a lot to talk about. Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm putting him as an NBA starter, but I'm not putting him as a sidekick or a superstar. Trey Young is next. Everything I said about Trey applies to Doncic. He's also not as good a shooter as you think. Looking at his field goal percentage, I mean, this is it. He needs to become a knockdown shooter. He's bumped it a lot this year, okay? And so he started, when you watch YouTube and you see just clips and just highlights, you see him knocking down all these threes, but he didn't come out of the gates that way. He came out of the gates obviously electrifying and a fan favorite or a fan villain, however you want to look at it, a polarizing player. But his three-point percentage was bad. His field goal percentage was terrible as a rookie, and that was the concern. Is he too little? Is he too small? Is he not strong enough to get by people? The dude has definitely worked on his body. He's still a little bitty guy, but his frame has changed significantly, and we've seen how important that is. Steph Curry is another great example. Steph Curry was a bone rack his rookie year, and throughout most of his career, Steph Curry's beefed up, man. Steph Curry is really good physically. I think Trey Young took notes. He's doing the same thing. You'll see this year he's shooting a career-high field goal percentage at 46%, which is not bad for a shoot-first point guard taking 21 shots a game with all of the attention on him. He's shooting 38% from three, which is a humongous step forward and a really good percentage considering he's taking 7.4 a game. He shoots a fantastic free throw percentage. He's over 90%. And like I said, if you're shooting over 90%, you are going to figure out how to shoot a high percentage from the three-point line. There is no question about that. A very, very select few people shoot 86, 88, 90% from the free throw line. Very few people do that consistently, and he's taking a ton of free throws. And learning how to lead a team. Unfortunately, the team's just not been super successful this year. But, I mean, hell, he's averaging 28.4, 9.5 assists, and almost 4 rebounds for a 3'7" kid. So that's pretty impressive numbers for somebody in their fourth year in the NBA. He's made an all-star team. He should have made an all-star team last year. He's going to make an all-star team this year. He's probably going to be, I shouldn't say he's going to be an NBA starter because the fans vote on that. But he's going to make the all-star team, even though his team is not performing up to expectations right now. It's funny, he only has one nickname, and he only needs one. It's a great nickname, Ice Tray. Great nickname. I don't have a ton of Ice Tray cards in my personal collection. I wish I had believed in him a little bit more, but I didn't. So anyway, we're moving on. He is clearly a franchise centerpiece, cornerstone, everything, checks every box except he's a munchkin. But great player, franchise cornerstone. Clearly, wherever the Hawks go, it will hinge on Trey Young and who they put around him. He's the alpha, and he's everything. Mo Bamba is next. Absolute trash from the jump. However, he is having a very good year this year. For a very terrible team. He's getting a lot of run. Vucevic is gone, so he's got the paint to himself. Wendell Carter, who was drafted the next slot after him, I'll put him in the same category. If you ask me to choose which one ends up being the better pro long term, I'm going to say Mo Bamba because neither one of these guys can play in lick of offense. Neither one of them have a lick of skill. But Mo Bamba is a better perimeter shooter, believe it or not. And Mo Bamba is significantly longer and going to end up being a better shot blocker once he figures out the NBA game and he develops his body. Wendell Carter's already got the body. Mo Bamba does not quite yet have the body. If Mo Bamba gets the body, he's going to have a very long NBA career as a spot starter and a role player. Wendell Carter is purely a role player. Yes, I know these guys are sometimes starting right now, but they're starting for one of the worst teams in the NBA, one of the worst teams in NBA history, the Orlando Magic. So both of those guys I'm putting in the role player, but currently they're starting. Colin Sexton, he's an anomaly, and this is going to be polarizing. The Cleveland Cavaliers have taken a huge step forward despite the absence of Colin Sexton. I attribute a lot of that to the additions to their roster. Kevin Love has accepted a role and is playing fantastic basketball at the age of 49. Darius Garland has taken a huge step forward and should be very close to making an all-star team. If he doesn't, they've got to give an all-star nod to somebody on Cleveland since they've overachieved, and he's the guy that deserves it. Markkanen has rejuvenated his career, which albeit is funny to say because he's in like his fourth year or whatever. Sexton's not there. Sexton's going to be out for the entire season. He's 6'2", 185 and not a point guard. I see Colin Sexton as a Jordan Clarkson. If you're old like me, you'll remember Ben Gordon. He is a run my second unit and get me a hell of a lot of buckets. A Reggie Jackson type is another example. But he's a go get me buckets from the second unit. I don't think he's the guy that plays off the ball. I don't think he's a true point guard. He's just kind of a tweener guy that I worry about. We thought he was going to be an elite defender coming out of college because he is intense and he's physically stacked. He is the dude's built and he's got an NBA ready body, but he's not been a great defender statistically since he came in the league. I don't know. Maybe he does go somewhere and he ends up returning to his status as the starting point guard for a team. The book is not closed on that. I definitely could be wrong on that. I think he ends up being dealt somewhere, and I think they end up keeping Garland. And I think they can get a good package, a good haul back for Colin Sexton. Next is Kevin Knox, Sasquatch. He had his chance. He was the golden child. He was every New York Knicks hope for the turnaround. He ended up being completely lost in the shuffle when Julius Randle came in and flipped that franchise and made them somewhat relevant. Kevin Knox disappeared. That leads me to believe that he ain't good enough. If he's not good enough to get on the court for that team, especially the type of year they're having now, he's just not good enough. Role player at best, possible Sasquatch out of the league in a few years. That's crazy to say for somebody this young who left Kentucky his freshman year. Mike, you know what? He's got a chance to be a Kyle Anderson type guy. Very similar player to Kyle Anderson. Not overly athletic, not a great shooter. I just don't know if Kyle Anderson has a really good basketball IQ and is a really good playmaker, believe it or not. And I'm not sure Kevin Knox is there. Michael Bridges, people love this dude. I have Michael Bridges on my fantasy team. I don't own any Michael Bridges cards. I just don't think he can play offense. I think he's a true 3-and-D. I think he can put it on the bounce maybe one or two times. I don't think you can run an offense for him. I don't think when Booker and Paul are out of the game, he can play point. I don't see this elite NBA player. I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star. He is a very solid starter because he's a very good defensive player, and he's actually started to develop his shots actually coming along. He's a crucial part of that Phoenix Suns team and the chemistry. He's really just one of those glue guys. He's one of those glue guys that makes everybody around him better. He covers up a lot of defensive deficiencies that the Suns have from some of their other guys. And he's a glue guy, man. He fits squarely in the NBA starter category. Next is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Franchise. The concern with SGA, and let's look at his stats. The concern with SGA is his shooting. It is horrific. He's shooting 41%. He didn't always start this way. So he actually shot a pretty decent clip, a really good clip from three. His threes have gone up pretty significantly, 1.4 more than he's ever taken a game. He's got more defensive attention than he's ever had. And I'm telling you guys, that matters. When you're the man instead of just a man, it really affects your percentages. It affects everything. And so he's playing 35 minutes a game. That's a lot of minutes. Not that he can't handle that, but it just goes to show you he's everything for this Oklahoma City team. And Oklahoma City, he really ain't much. Josh Giddey's a nice, promising young kid coming up next to him. But you'll see, SGA is shooting 28% from three-point range this year and 41% from the field. That is just not going to cut it. What gives me hope is that he shot a very high percentage earlier in his career from both 2 and 3, and he shoots a really good free throw percentage. 82.2%, pretty good for a guard. He's got great positional size. He's on 6'6", 180, and he is a true point. And he's a good defensive player. He's averaging 22.6, 5.2 assists, and 4.7 rebounds. But it's a step backwards. I don't know how else to say it. he has taken a step backwards. He's some game winners, which is great. But his numbers have taken a little bit of a step backwards. And you know what? That's not the end of the world. Ja Morant's stats took a huge step backward last year, if I recall. And look what he's doing this year. I think he works his ass off. I think he's a basketball lifer. I think he's going to turn this thing around. And I think he's going to end up being an all-star type player. I don't know if he's a franchise cornerstone centerpiece for a contender team. I don't know if he's that. I think he's probably clearly an NBA starter, maybe the second best player on a contender NBA team. He will knock on the door of an all-star team one day, but there's a lot of people he's got to knock out of the way. That's my take on SGA. Miles Bridges, breakout season. There's not much else I can say. He went from being a role player to shoving PJ Washington and everybody else over there completely out of the way and saying, I'm the dude. So he is, he is Alpha B for the Charlotte Hornets. It's him and LaMelo. They take turns being the alpha, and it's nice to have Rozier there on days where those two guys aren't on their game. But Miles Bridges is another guy who it's just too early to tell. Can he take the next step and become an all-star? I don't know. He's super athletic, crazy athletic, fun to watch, plays on a fun team that plays with a high pace. I don't know. He's clearly a solid starter in the NBA, a much better than average starter in the NBA, and has taken a massive step forward this year to where his name's getting mentioned in Most Improved Player of the Year. So if you're a Miles Bridges card holder, you're probably sitting pretty and happy to have his cards. And going back to SGA, if you've got SGA cards, from what I've looked at, his cards are not where they need to be. I'm not telling you to go buy more, but if you're thinking about getting out of the SGA game, I would really chill out with that. I'd hang on to those cards. I think there's a lot more to the story for SGA and potentially for Miles Bridges. Again, it's weird because we'll know, like 2 years from now, like we analyzed the 2016 class, 2 years from now, we'll know more, so much more about the direction that SGA's career and Miles Bridges' career is going to head. Right now, they're just right there on the precipice, and let's see if they can just take that step to superstardom. I'm not sure. Jerome Robinson's a dude I really liked. Unfortunately, he's a role player. He was a very versatile, a good player in college and came out a little bit older from Boston College, but he's turned into a role player. I don't know if he ever carves out a starting role. Michael Porter Jr., I'm not going to talk a long time about Michael Porter Jr. You saw what he's capable of. He is an absolutely elite shooter. He reminds me of Carmelo Anthony. People keep comparing him to Kevin Durant. That's not a good comparison. Kevin Durant, 3 years into his career, could go by people and dunk on your face. Michael Porter Jr. never goes by anybody. He plays like Carmelo Anthony, who never did and never will go by anybody. He can jab step you. He can outskill you. He can outsize you. He exploits littles. He is quick enough to exploit bigs. He can post the hell out of little people. He can play the 2 guard or the 3 guard or the 4. He's too soft to play the 5, but the kid's 6'11", 210 with great length and has no trouble flicking threes from 25 feet while contested. Shot a really high percentage last year, and everybody thought his cards were going to the moon, and they did. And then this year, people are all down on him, and I think his numbers and his game deteriorated because of his injury. I think he's played pretty much this whole season with the injury. Obviously, he's out now and probably out for the rest of the season. Jokic is carrying the team with very little help. No Michael Porter and no Jamal Murray is a big problem. But I have Michael Porter Jr. cards. I did sell some at the peak, and so I did pretty well on some. Some I got out of in the PWCC monthly auction maybe in November, or no, I guess it would be December after his injury was announced. It was just terrible timing, but my cards were already in that auction. Nothing crazy special, a bunch of silvers and a few other colors. Nothing crazy high end. I'm still holding a decent, little chunk of Michael Porter Jr. cards because I want to see how it unfolds. I want to see him healthy, and maybe he never gets healthy, and that's kind of the concern. But if you believe in Michael Porter, the one thing I can say is there has never been a better time to buy Michael Porter Jr. cards. We do know what he's capable of. Okay, we know what Michael Porter Jr. can do because we saw him do it. We just don't know if his body will allow him to do it again. And even if it does, We don't know if it'll allow him to do it consistently for a long career. Troy Brown is a really good player. He's a really good role player. He's going to stick around for a long time. Got a great NBA body, pretty good IQ, can do a bunch of guard type things at 6'7", role player, consistent role player. Zaire Smith, by the way, Michael Porter Jr., I would put him in the sidekick all-star because we've seen glimpses of it. When Jamal Murray went out, he was that guy. I mean, the dude was averaging 20 points on almost 50, 40, 90. That's not normal for a 20-year-old kid who's got zero NBA experience. And so Michael Porter Jr. fits squarely into that sidekick, knocking on the door of a one-day all-star. Not now, but one day. And again, health is everything for him. Zaire Smith, Sasquatch, I don't think he could shoot. They didn't think he could shoot coming out of Texas Tech. He's apparently proven he can't shoot at all. So I'm going to put him in the Sasquatch category. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment if you know something that I don't about Zaire Smith. Dante DiVincenzo, role player / starter. Before the leg injury, he was the clear-cut starter at the 2 for the Bucks alongside Drew Holiday and Middleton and Giannis and Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez injury has obviously done wonders for my Bucks. Finally, it took an injury for Budenholzer to figure out what I already knew, is that team is 100 times better with Portis playing the 5 and Giannis playing the 4. I don't understand why it took the 2-time Coach of the Year so long to figure that out, but whatever. Getting back to DiVincenzo, he is right squarely between a very solid NBA star. Obviously, he'd be a starter on a lot of bad teams. The Bucks are one of the best teams in the league. So NBA starter / very high-level role player, can play some backup 1. He can run a second unit, or he can be your starting shooting guard. He's just got a great demeanor. He's a tough-ass kid, man. Everybody who comes from Villanova is just mean and tough as shit. You know, Kyle Lowry, Dante DiVincenzo, Sadiq Bey, Michael Bridges. Those dudes don't back down from anybody, man. If you play for Jay Wright at Villanova, you're a badass. You won't survive if you're not. Lonnie Walker, a great a prospect here. So there's people are on two sides of the fence on Lonnie Walker. There's a lot of people who are heavy into Lonnie Walker cards that are holding right now, waiting on bated breath. He's finally getting consistent minutes, albeit from the bench. He's sitting behind Derek White. I think he's better than Derek White. That's just me. But DeJounte Murray is obviously the future of that franchise at the guard position. Lonnie Walker's 6'5", 205, something like that. Lonnie Walker can definitely play the 2. I don't think he can help you at the 1, but he can play the 2 or an undersized 3. I like Lonnie Walker as a prospect. I'm not into his cards, so I have no dog in this hunt. If I had Lonnie Walker cards, I'd be holding those suckers. Right now, he is a role player, spot starter, and I don't ever see Lonnie Walker taking that next step, but he's got a lot of DeRozan type stuff to him. I don't know where I stand on Lonnie Walker. Let's just put it that way. You just got to wait. It's just too early. Kevin Huerter will never be an all-star. He will probably be a role player. I know for a while there he was a starter for the Hawks just because they needed that shooting to space the floor for Trey Young when he runs that pick and roll. He's their guy standing there clapping his hands on the wing. I don't see it. I know a lot of people were real high on Red Velvet. I want the best for him. He's got really good size. He can play the 2 or the 3. He's kind of soft to play the 4 and short. So I'm putting him solidly in the role player. The dude ain't going anywhere. Think Kyle Korver, best case scenario. Josh Okogie, 3 and D that can't shoot. He's a role player. If you've got his cards, I don't know why you still do. Sorry if that offends anybody. Grayson Allen, role player. He's like a poor man's Dante DiVincenzo. He does everything Dante DiVincenzo does, just not quite as well. He is a role player. He'll never be a consistent NBA starter. He'll never be an all-star, in my opinion. Chandler Hutchinson has disappeared. Seemed like a really versatile wing slasher type kid. Has got his chance to play, and I don't know if injuries have derailed him or whatever. I haven't seen his name in any box scores, and I haven't seen him on League Pass in quite a while. Comment below if you know something I don't about Chandler Hutchinson, but I would call him a role player / Sasquatch. Aaron Holiday, another guy. It's just too early, man. Little bitty point guard, got great genes, obviously great bloodlines. A lot of the people that I know that were Pacer fans were really high on him. Let's just wait and see. I'm not ready to call him a Sasquatch, but he's given no indication he is an NBA starter, which means he's not card relevant. Anthony Simons, oh boy. I should do a whole video on this. I am biased. My opinion is, I'm not even going to give you my opinion. You guys know how I feel. He's my biggest prospect swing ever. Just scrolling through some of my Anthony Simons cards that I've got sitting in the vault. I've never gone as deep or heavy into a prospect in my life as Anthony Simons. I've got, I think, 275 slabbed Anthony Simons rookies. I've got 6 pages worth of Anthony Simons slabs in my vault, and I've got about 2,000 more raw Anthony Simons rookie cards at my house. We will have to revisit this. Maybe I'll do another video about how passionate I am as a prospector. This is the investor side of me coming through. I live and die with every box score that Anthony Simons has. He's been on a great stretch lately here with the Blazers, with Lillard dinged up and McCollum out and starting to show what he can do. And he's shooting awesome percentages finally. This is another great example of hashtag strong hands. Just wait. Don't give up. Don't dump cards at the first sign. I am waiting for Anthony Simons to get traded, CJ McCollum to get traded, or Damian Lillard to get traded. I will probably slowly cash in on my investment. Again, I know it looks crazy. I bought these cards for so cheap. I'm doing just fine right now. Don't worry about me. I am way up on where I bought these cards and the $8 that I paid PSA to grade them. Those are my thoughts on Anthony Simon. Literally, we could do another video. I could scroll forever. All of these are PSA 10s. All of these are cards that matter. None of those are base. Pray for me. I hope Anthony Simons works out. If you love Anthony Simons, comment below so we can be best friends. Moe Wagner, he's dirty. He's a cheap shot artist. He's a trash player. There's a million things that I despise about Moe Wagner and the way he plays the game. His brother, however, is making a push for Rookie of the Year. His brother is the better looking, better skilled favorite son over Moe Wagner. Obviously, I don't like Moe Wagner. Anyway, moving on. Landry Shamet, catch and shoot, 3 and D. Oh, going back. Anthony Simons, my personal opinion is I think he's got tremendous upside. Listening to the way his coaches talk about him and the way his teammates have talked about him from day one, and the way that he's handled himself in a horrific situation in Portland where he's basically asked just to be a kid sitting on the bench. I think Anthony Simons has great potential. Again, I am extremely biased, so my opinion means nothing on him. Moe Wagner, I think he's trash. He's a role player at best. I don't know how much longer. Landry Shamet, role player. Robert Williams, NBA starter / role player. Best case, Clint Capella in his prime. He's probably better than Clint Capella today. Elite defensively, Louisiana kid. So, he's I'm rooting for him. Jacob Evans has disappeared. Actually from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Went to high school where my kids go to high school, less than a mile away from my house. Great kid in high school. Super kid. I don't know where he is. I have no idea. He was getting some run with Golden State because he's a pretty versatile, good size for a 2 guard. I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't seen his name in the box score or anything in the NBA. Maybe he went overseas. If you know where he is, comment below. I could probably figure it out on Google or Basketball Reference. Zanon Musa, he got a few minutes here and there for Brooklyn. He's Sasquatch. Omari Spellman's Sasquatch, just never was very good. Had an okay little spurt there his rookie year in his second year, but I think he's done for. Eli Okobo, tried and failed. Javon Carter, tough, nasty point guard from West Virginia. I think he's got a long career in the NBA as a backup point guard, like a Antonio Daniels, Reggie Jackson type dude. Maybe not as good as Reggie Jackson, more like an Antonio Daniels. Jaylen Brunson is awesome. I love Jaylen Brunson. He's another one in the list of Villanova players that are just tough as nails. Great demeanor. His dad was a good player as well. Had a cup of coffee in the NBA. Jaylen Brunson is awesome. He's fun to watch. He's super crafty. I'm pretty sure he was National Collegiate Player of the Year. Again, great bloodlines, great development development at Villanova. Not the youngest dude, probably not super card relevant, but he is a very high-level role player with the potential to start on terrible teams or even on the Mavericks as a spot starter. Devonta Graham, old. I'm not huge on Devonta Graham from a prospecting standpoint. He's older, role player. I know he's starting for the Pelicans. I don't think he's what they're looking for as a starter. I think he's a huge step down from their last two starters, which are Drew Holiday and Alonzo Ball. He's trying, but the kid's little. He's a defensive liability. If you're prospecting Devonta Graham, good luck. Sorry, that's just my opinion. Melvin Frazier, another Louisiana kid. Mitchell Robinson, another Louisiana kid. Melvin Frazier is Sasquatch because he wasn't skilled enough and couldn't play offense. Mitchell Robinson, everything I said about Robert Williams, I'll say the same thing about Mitchell Robinson. Spot starter, Clint Capella, rim running, DeAndre Jordan type. Great defender, great defensively, true big, can't stretch the floor. Robert Williams also can't stretch the floor. Those guys are intertwined, and they're both from Louisiana. So 4 guys from Louisiana in this 2018 draft, 2 in the first round and 2 in the second round. So Mitchell Robinson, clearly an elite role player defensively with the potential to be an NBA rim-running defensive big. Gary Trent Jr., very good role player / starter. I'm not high on Gary Trent. Again, let's see if y'all can figure out why. He was taking minutes away from Anthony Simons in Portland, so I don't like Gary Trent Jr. That's a personal opinion, but good player. He's going to be in the NBA for a long time. Also good bloodlines. His dad was the Shaq of the Mac. Gary Trent Jr., I don't know if he's the long-term answer for Toronto at that shooting guard position. But that's what he is, kind of a 3-and-D guy, a pretty intense guy, tough guy. So Gary Trent Jr. is a solid starter in the NBA. I think your time to cash out on Gary Trent Jr. I may be wrong, but you can check Card Ladder or Market Movers or whatever you use for your data. Would probably have been the day he was traded to Toronto. I got a great story of a local collector friend of mine who sold his card like the day after Gary Trent dropped like 45 points in a game for some reason somehow. Kyrie Thomas, Sasquatch. Isaac Bonga, Sasquatch. Rodion Karooks, Sasquatch. Jared Vanderbilt is carved out a nice role as a defense, primarily a versatile defensive undersized 4, but plays with great energy and rebounds the ball viciously for Minnesota. He's been a really good glue guy for Minnesota, which really surprises me. So Jared Vanderbilt, from an investment perspective in the card world, I'm not seeing that because I don't think he develops as an offensive player. He was actually, I coached against him and De'Aaron Fox and Justice Winslow. They were on an insane Houston Hoops Nike EYBL team. If you can go back and do your research, go check out the starting 5 from that Houston Hoops. I guess it would have been, 2018? So like 2016 or 17. Look up their Nike EYBL grassroots team. That was a filthy starting 5. Bruce Brown, just a defensive guy who mugs people on the perimeter, no offensive ability whatsoever, no upside prospecting. Justin Jackson is done. I think he's just too soft. Go see my comments on Kevin Knox. Usaf Sanan, never heard of him. Hamidou Diallo can jump over your head but can't shoot a basketball. I know he's had a couple big games lately here, but I think it's just because the team is absolutely horrific and somebody's got to score. I don't see Hamidou Diallo developing into a player because he can't dribble or shoot or make decisions, but whatever. If you're super, super crazy athletic, I guess there's a place for you on a horrible team in the NBA. DeAnthony Melton, good little role player. That's it. Nothing more. Good role player. He's been productive this year, especially. It's good to see. Svi Mikhailuk, role player. If he's starting now, he won't be for long. Pretty athletic dude out of Kansas. Not the youngest guy around, so from a prospecting standpoint, irrelevant. Keita Bates-Diop. This guy had like the game of his career like 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure when this video is going to air, but like 2 weeks from the day I'm recording it, he had some bonkers game where he was like 11 for 11 from the field and had like 30 points, and I think they beat the Lakers. It was like 11 for 11, 4 for 4 from 3, and like 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Out of nowhere. It's just completely random. Chimezi Metu, he's starting to play a little bit, but he's a rim runner dude, rim protector guy, nothing special. Elise Johnson, same thing, role player. Tony Carr, no idea who the hell that is. Great job on that pick, Pelicans. Vince Edwards, Sasquatch. Devin Hall, Sasquatch. Shake Milton. Everything I said about DeAnthony Melton applies to Shake Milton, maybe a little bit better. Pretty productive second unit, kind of combo point two. Don't know who Kulboka is. Don't know who Spalding is. Kevin Hervey, no clue. Thomas Welsh, no clue. I know who he is, but terrible player. He's never going to play in the league. George King, no. Costa Antetokounmpo, great last name, great bloodlines, but can't play the part. Never be NBA relevant. And so that's it, guys. That's going through the whole draft. I am scared to think about how long this video was. This is definitely going to be my longest one ever. I would really love to get your comments. If you've lasted this long, kudos for you. I'm super proud of you. And I've made a friend if you've listened to me for over 50 minutes. If you like the videos and you like people who ramble and live in Louisiana and go through every player in the draft one by one, then hit the like button. It really helps me lovingly caress that like button. It also helps me with the YouTube algorithm, whatever the hell that is. Please subscribe if you haven't already. The little box should be on the screen. Just click it and subscribe. And then hit the bell icon for notifications. Got lots of more fun videos planned for you guys in the future. Hope this video was entertaining for you guys. I know everything's supposed to be either entertaining or educational on YouTube. A lot of this is my personal opinion. Please just keep in mind, I'm not out here acting like I'm an expert. I feel like having a conversation. I don't have a lot of people here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana that I can talk about with this. And so I do welcome your comments. I want it to be a two-way thing where we can each give our opinions about the things that I say on these videos. I certainly don't think I'm the be-all, end-all, know-it-all because I'm also the dude who invested in Chris Dunn and Dennis Smith Jr. So you win some, you lose some. Luckily, I've won a lot more than I've lost. But the NBA and NBA prospecting specifically is not a perfect science. And so anyway, thanks guys for listening. Hope you're having a great collecting week. If you see me at a card show, come and say hello. I'm trying to hit a few shows this spring. And peace.